Hi, I'm Jeanie of Riveting Trips, and I'm here to give you some Korean etiquette tips while traveling abroad in Korea. If you find these tips helpful, then let me know in the comments below. And then also, if you're interested in traveling to Korea, book with me. So here we go. Basically, in order to understand Korean society, you kind of have to understand its history and the influence. And one of the dominating influences in East Asian societies, including Japan, China, and Taiwan, is Confucianism. So Confucianism is an ancient Chinese philosophy that kind of is embedded in all of Korean society. Even though Korea has been influenced by Western media and things like Coca-Cola and McDonald's, it still has a lot of Confucian ideals embedded. So once you understand these ideals, then you'll have a better understanding of Korean society and how kind of homogenous society is in trying to keep everything even keel, so to speak. So one of the first things in Confucian society is that there is a pecking order. And in this pecking order, the eldest person or the oldest person gets priority. So obviously there are going to be times when you don't see this applied, like when you ride the subway and people are pretending to be sleeping on the subway so they don't give up their seat. But in Korea, in Seoul, there are seats now dedicated to people who are older, physically have physical mobility issues, and also pregnant. So you will see that. Also, you'll see that play into when you go and eat. Usually the person that is the eldest person in the room or the eldest person at the table gets to eat first. You don't eat until that person starts eating, and you don't leave the table until that person has left the table. Also, another thing that's important to know is that when in doubt, use two hands. And you'll understand later on, when you meet someone for the first time, you don't shake with one hand, you shake with two hands. You clasp your hand with their hand, both of your hands clasp one hand, and you do a slight bow like that. If you are lucky to ever enter a Korean person's home or apartment or a business which has kind of like a more personalized touch, remember to take off your shoes. They will always have slippers for you, or if they don't expect you, take off your shoes, keep your socks on. Barefoot are not really looked well upon. You want socks and on and shoes off. Even the smallest apartment, they'll always have their shoes off. Next up are some eating and drinking tips. I'm sure you'll want to know these, right? So let's figure them out. As mentioned before, eldest eats first, okay? Not only do they eat first, when you're drinking, you want to serve them alcohol, once again with two hands, right? And then when you're drinking alcohol, you look away from the person who's older than you. I know this seems a little weird, but this has to do with like your pecking order in society. So the oldest person eats first, the oldest person drinks first, and the oldest person, when they pour alcohol to you, then you receive with two hands. Not one hand, but with two hands. Okay? Two. Generally, when you are drinking in Korean drinking culture, the youngest one pours the drinks to everybody, and they pour with two hands because they are the youngest person at the table. And then when they actually you don't pour yourself your own drink in Korea. You're supposed to wait for someone else to pour for you, and you're supposed to pour before that glass gets empty. So when that person pours for you, you're supposed to receive with how many hands? Two hands. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are the youngest person at the table, hooray, you're not supposed to be looking at people when you're drinking, unless they're your peers. But if it's a social work situation or something like that, you're supposed to be looking away. I know it's a little weird. Let's pretend this is my beer glass. It's just water, okay? I'm looking at somebody else, or someone else is older, seated across from me. Yeah, like that. I know it's weird, huh? But it is what it is. So when you have a Korean meal, there really only are two utensils, chopsticks and a spoon. And the spoon it's like this really long handled spoon. The spoon is for your soup. Everything else you use chopsticks. And then as a bad luck omen, do not stick your chopsticks into your bowl of rice when you're like eating. What you want to do is you want to lay them on the side, okay, as you are eating. One thing Koreans love to do is to fight about who's going to pay the bill. Okay, so what they normally do is they will offer to pay the bill, and then someone will say, no, I'm going to pay the bill. And the other person's going to say, I'm going to pay the bill. No, I'm going to pay the bill. Usually this happens at least 3 rounds, and then finally you determine who's going to pay the bill. I know it's a little weird, but that's the way it goes. One more thing is that in Korea, tipping is not really necessary. I haven't seen it still come into Korean culture. If you'd like to tip in Roundup, you can offer a tip, but cab drivers don't take tips, hotel people don't take tips, restaurants don't take tips. It's just kind of part of the culture, right? You just enjoy the service while it's there. Hopefully you learned a little bit of Korean etiquette to prepare you for your trip to Korea. If you like this video, please like it below and share with your friends. And if you'd like to book an itinerary to Korea, please contact me at Riveting Trips. My email is below, or you can just follow me here and then comment, and then I'll follow up. Talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao for now.